Good evening and welcome once again to the third episode of the Message Music Diaries. We are glad to have you here and we know that you are going to have as much fun as we had when we interviewed these people. So first up, we've got our pianists and let's see what they've got for us. Oh, wow. Welcome, everyone. This is Brothers Sibusiso that just played that wonderful track for us. Don't you just want to introduce yourself to us, please, my brother?
Hello, everybody. My name is Busiso Skosana. I live in Johannesburg, Midrand, and I worship in Mamelodi under Pastor Israel Nkodima. It's nice to be here.
No, it's good to have you. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Tell us a bit
So,
about that track you played now. I didn't recognize it. What was it? What was it you were playing?
so it's a song I wrote a while ago, and we recorded it in our uh, recording that we did in 2017, I think it is. It's called "I Run to Him." So if you look on YouTube, just Google "I Run to Him."
We'll find it.
Skosana family, you'll find it. It's there. It's
I,
just
I,
this
I,
time I just did a bit of a different feel of it.
so I've been following your music for quite a few years, and I mean, your family is extremely talented. I mean, starting off with I think it was your grandfather on the trumpet, and so on and so forth. Don't you just want to quickly tell us a bit about the backstory behind your music?
Yes, yes. So My grandfather used to be a music teacher, and he used to play trumpet.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, in those days, they never really had a lot of resources that we have today. So, what he used to do, he used to gather my uncle and my mom and my uncle. Both my uncles actually play guitar, acoustic
Oh,
guitar,
wow. Okay.
and you might know. In fact, some people might know my one of my uncles is his name is Keith Sipoyo.
Yes. Yes.
He
Yes.
wrote a number of songs, message
Yes.
songs, eh?
Yes. Yes.
And there's one particular one that we always do that he wrote with Pastor George Martin.
Yeah. Oh,
It says, "One day we'll fly away on the
yes.
wings of an eagle." So yes, so yeah. In those days, they used to go to church, come back, jam a little bit at home, but unfortunately, they never really had a chance or resources to be able to record some of these things.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so in any case, after that, of course, we are the next generation that came up, right? So there's five of us at home. So I mean, we grew up with instruments in the house. We never
Yeah.
actually had a keyboard, so we had a guitar. I think a brother from church actually gave me an old Casio keyboard, like 51
Yeah.
keys, and we used to play around with that. So that's where it came from. And as we grew up, there's a lot of things we loved in music, and there's a lot of things we didn't like. In
Yeah.
those days, we used to listen to the likes of, I don't know if you would know Brad Elton, but Derek Nzimande. He used to
Mm,
play
mm.
an organ, and he used to play drums, and
Yeah.
uh, I hated that music. I'm sorry if somebody listens to this online, they're gonna think, hey, this guy. Sorry, but I just didn't like it because it just didn't reflect well where it didn't it resonated with those times, right? Because that's
Yes.
all we had. We
Yes.
had
Yes.
Rebecca Malope, we had a couple of
Yes.
these, and then in the message we had the believer,
Mm.
and that's what we used to listen to. That's what we used to play. And if you listened or play anything outside of that, you were letting the devil come through the door.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So so yeah, and so my brothers and my sisters, we then started in those days, and we were invited to weddings and parties, and we would also be invited to churches, get invited to churches to come and render items, or if we go for conventions, we would sing at the convention. And that's actually where it all started. And
Mm,
whatever
mm,
we've learned over the years came from everything that we were doing from that time.
mm.
So until we are here now. In fact, my younger brother, Mto, is
Yeah.
a very well achieved songwriter and worship leader.
Oh, wow.
I myself, I play, and I've got this principle or this belief that you must leave the prophecies for the prophets. So Mto really, when he leads, apart from the fact that there's other things that he does in the background, but he really it does it quite well. And I think over the years he's been able to improve and improve from he's learned. So yeah. Otherwise, we get in. We've done a couple of events with yourself and Nehemiah and some of the brothers and sisters. So
Yeah.
it's we're having a lot of fun while
Absolutely. I must say I'm really fond of your music. I'm fond of your style, which is very different. And I think as we progress, years ago, like you said, we used to listen to believers. And then you were backslidden when you listened to Jimmy Swaggart, kind of thing. And these
yeah,
days,
yeah,
music has progressed, and young people are listening to all sorts of things now. Now it's there's a whole lot of singers out there, a whole lot of Christian music. But I like what I'm hearing, from your style of music. But specifically, what I want to mention is I walked into a concert one year, and you were asked, your family was asked to come up and sing a song. And you came up, and the very first thing you said was, "We believe in the message of the hour." That resonated with me, and
Yes.
it stuck with me because singing, everybody can sing. Worldly people sings, everybody. Playing instruments,
Yeah.
everybody can do that.
Yes.
But
Yes.
we started this, for message believers. And I am
Yeah.
so happy to have you with us, and knowing that, you stand with us 100%, and music has not pulled you off to the
Yeah.
side. I think that's so important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think, Brother Elton, what we've actually told ourselves right from the beginning, we said, look, if we are going to do this, we are going
Mhm.
to do this the right way. And yes, we're going to make sure that we elevate and escalate the standards in terms of what we present. But people need to know people need to know what we stand for. In fact, there we didn't even know. I remember that's an event we did at the State Theatre. Um, Sometimes we get invited to come and sing at some of the Pentecostal churches in Fenton and in Springs and
Yes,
everywhere. And when we live there, they know who we are.
what you
When we
stand
live
for.
there, yeah, they know what we stand for. In fact, I remember we went to an event. It wasn't an event. It was a TV recording. And
Oh, wow.
when we got there, they wanted to put makeup on my sister's faces. And we didn't know because we're the guys. We were like standing outside, and they called them in, and they want to put like makeup on their faces. And my sister says, no, we don't put makeup on our faces. We don't put earrings. Look at our dresses, and we like them this way. We're not changing. And
Wow.
and they insist. They said, can we just at least brush you up? I said, no, we are fine. and and that day in that TV station, even now when they call us, they say, guys, they are here, but don't worry, they're
No
not gonna
makeup.
put on no makeup, nothing. They're just gonna go on TV like that. Because we I think we need to elevate and make sure that people ask questions. They ask
Mm.
who we
Hmm.
are, and
Hmm.
and we eloquently explain
Mm.
to them who we are and what we stand for.
I love that.
I think it's important.
Absolutely. And that is actually one of the reasons why I wanted you on here. I mean, we've got a lot of talented, musicians throughout South Africa, but
Mm.
specifically, music is what you do. And why I
Yeah,
wanted you on here was, just to explain to the viewers out there how you are still holding on. You you
yeah,
still have the
yeah,
cross before you and the world behind you, and you haven't swapped those two around just for the
yeah.
sake of the fame and the glory, that goes with music, and especially at the level that you guys are currently performing. So that is one of the reasons why I wanted you here and share your story with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, no. So Pretelton, I must be honest. We went when we came into the music scene. We first we It's because we were tired of being told that no, we're going to have to keep it here, and this is where it stays.
Mm.
But my dad was instrumental in us being able to stand our ground because he said, "Look, we will support you. We will go with you. We will pray for you. But you must realize that there's a certain level. Once you've crossed that level, things that happen on the other side, they never tell you these things when you're at this side.
Hmm.
So anyway, we then met a couple of friends, and we call them friends because they really meant well. And from those friends, we got invited to some places where there are times where we get to a place and we say, okay, we are not going to be able to sing here, sorry, and we jump into the cars and then we go.
Oh,
um,
wow.
and and we've done that a couple of times because
Mm.
sometimes I heard one pastor saying you need to minimize the punches of the devil. So
Mm.
like in boxing, if you constantly stand in front of your opponent and they keep punching you in the face all the time, even though you're strong, even though you've got the word,
Mhm.
the spoken word, the Bible, there's one punch it's going to knock you out, because you are actually always standing in front of. Sometimes you actually need to stand away or move away from your opponent so that they actually can't reach you. If they try
Yeah,
to, and
yeah.
and that's a principle we've used. In some places we decided no, we're not going to go there. Sometimes we take our own musicians, because a person carries a spirit. If you stand in front of people and you minister, and then there's somebody in your team yourself that is not of the
Mm.
same spirit that you're trying to portray in there, they are going to compromise you. So,
Absolutely.
so over time we learned these things, and you will see that now recently what we're doing, we're writing a lot of songs, and we are very happy to give songs away. If we write a song and somebody comes to us and says, "Ooh, we like that song. Can we sing it?" Of course.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and
absolutely.
and and that's how we are edifying into the message and into the ministry in the bigger scheme of things. But it has been nice. I mean, it has been fun to interact and learn as we go. You know?
Absolutely. I can absolutely see it on your face, that this is not a pain for you. You really enjoy what you're doing. And I love the story that you shared with us this evening. Just on a technical side, quickly, take us through your setup that we can see, there in your background. What's the setup that you've got there? Looks like a little home studio.
Yes, 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 yes. So I've created I call it a music project studio, because there's a lot of things that we can do in here. So what I have a keyboard. It's a 74 key. The reason I didn't do the 88 is because, to carry an 88 around is a bit of a mission. So it's a Yamaha MODX7, right?
Mhm,
So I use it as a MIDI instructor. And then what I
mhm,
have is just a normal Apple machine, and I've got two monitors. I've got different types of microphones depending on what we want to do. When you want to mic a guitar, I use a unidirectional cardioid mic. If I want to record vocals, if we want to do overdubs, we use a different mic. And then in terms of software, I use Logic Pro,
mhm.
and Ableton Live. Now, let me tell you this. So Logic is very nice, right? It's a DAW. It's basically, it's got you can put MIDI instructions to it, and then you can use some
Mhm.
plugins, right? It's a bit difficult to work with it on stage, right? So
Ah,
on
okay.
stage, yeah, it's for you to change sound and change songs and it's very
Mhm.
difficult. So what I do, I also use Ableton. So what
Okay.
I do is if we prepare for a service or we prepare for a singing session somewhere, we do tracks, and depending on how many songs we will need to do, then we put those tracks into different tracks in Ableton, and
Ah,
then while you're playing, you can actually uh, play on top of what you've already done,
hmm.
and uh, and this is a very well kept secret, very well kept secret, because sometimes I used to ask myself, I used to go to events and I get there and the vocals are like on point and
Yeah.
the brass is just there, and I used to ask myself, no man, can't be. Until one of my friends said to me, no, 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 there's pre-production that happens prior to the actual production. So actually people it's actually very nice. And so what the people do is they record vocals, and then they basically put them in tracks. on
Yeah.
Ableton. And then when
Ah,
you play on stage, you actually play on Ableton, and then you play the music to the musicians' ears,
yeah.
right? And then they play. Gaither uses it.
Yeah,
A couple of
absolutely.
a
We've seen that.
lot of big
Absolutely.
artists use it. It's very nice. So yeah, that's what I have. So it's Ableton and a lot of plugins that I normally use: organs, pianos, brass, and those type of things. But all driven from this machine. What I've also done in the room is a 4 meter by 4 meter room.
Hmm.
Um, I put sound absorbers, because
Okay.
sometimes, you know, when you're playing or you're recording, sound travels and it bounces around, so it makes it
Mm.
difficult to get the exact sound of what you're trying to record. So all the
Mm.
walls I've put absorbers, and then I've put some thick curtains behind me. So it's a very quiet room. I'm not gonna clap, but it's very, very quiet. So yeah, brother, that's my
Wow.
gear. And then I've got a small sound card. I've hidden it behind here. It's a Focusrite sound card.
Okay.
I had a different one, but I had to give it away to my brother. So
I'm
yeah,
so glad you took us through that setup, because I mean there's so many people out there. We tend to think that a setup like that is a worldly setup. Some musicians,
no,
they're very careful, and I love that you've taken us through what you've got and what you set up. It also proves to me how seriously you take your music. Because every time you want to record something, you don't have to go to a studio. You can actually record, pro level music right there where you are, and that is very important for me. And I'm glad, for our viewers out there that's watching this evening, they can also just see that. I mean, you guys have got a lot of experience. I'm gonna put your link down below so that they can just check out some of your music on YouTube and also contact you if they have any questions. But now I've got one last question for you. Which other instruments do you play?
I play guitar. I
Okay.
play guitar. But I wouldn't say I'm a I'm a pro. I can get myself out of trouble, but I play. So I play pianos at church, and sometimes when we are with the family traveling around,
Okay.
um, and then guitar to compose or sort of get some structure on songs and whatever. But ordinarily, I play piano.
Okay. I'm going to quickly ask the the other musicians that we've got here with us if they've got any
Sure.
questions for you. So we'll start with Sister Bernice. Sister Bernice, do you have any questions for our brother Spuso?
Hi, Brother Subuso. It's an honor to speak again.
Thank you. Yes, well.
You played my favorite song, eh? I Run to You. That's one
Oh,
of the favorites of yours.
I'm
It's a
very
real
glad. I'm very glad.
blessing. It's a real blessing.
Thank you,
Well,
man.
I'm fairly new on this, and I really look to you guys and the level that you do. Like our brother said, you take your music very seriously. So there's a lot for me to learn. And by just what you're saying, I was always wondering about that, what programs they do use, where there's multiple instruments and, you can build up on it. So you just gave,
Mm, mm.
so that's going to help me.
Amazing.
And
Okay, okay.
yeah, but gosh, if I have any questions, there's going to be a lot. I can't think of them right now. But how long did it take? Okay, this is personally for me. I think I struggle with. Um, how long did it take for your music to actually get out there? I struggle with that.
Mm, mhm, mhm.
And being able to convince, I don't think we should be able to convince, but how do we really get our music on a platform where it's accepted and, people, I don't know, I struggle with that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a good question. I always say that most of the musicians that are starting now, they should also use us as a sounding board, because if I can tell you where we come from, right?
Mm.
Sometimes I think it's unbelievable, even for myself. So firstly, we've had to cross the first hurdle. The first hurdle was to get Message believers to accept our music, right? And it was difficult. There were times where we were actually labeled as people that have sold their souls, because we had now started to go out there and sing message songs that we've written. Remember, also what we have done is, over time we've sung hymns, we've sung songs of worship, we've sung the believers. We know all those songs, but for you to catch a fish, all right, you need to give it the right bait, something that it loves, right? And we realized that if I were to go to Mamelodi or to Soshanguve, and go and sing a believer song, immediately that fish is just going to swim away, you know. Because it doesn't identify with that food. That's not what it eats. We realized, so what we then said, we said, look, let's write songs that are still message intensive, but easy on the ear, right? But not only that. So because we did that, and then we produced it, and still people didn't accept it. Then we learned the second thing. So the first thing was to be true to who we are, write our songs, and stick to what we stand for, right? But it must be easy in the ear. Then the second thing was we then said, hang on, how do other people arrange and put songs together? Because we can write songs, but we struggle to arrange the songs. So we hired a producer. All right. So we hired a producer, a professional producer, a guy that produced big names, that produced Dr. Tumi, if you know Dr. Tumi. The guy produced Benjamin Dube. So we went to him and we said, look, we have a song. We'd like you to produce it for us. We were blown away. Because these guys, they don't do anything except produce music. So they took this song, they turned it around. So the show that you see on YouTube that we recorded in 2017, where I Ran to Him, is also there. The brother that is on the piano was our producer, right? He's actually the one that went and took all those songs and really worked on them until we got the right quality of the. He even worked on our voice. We had a certain way that we were supposed to sing, you know. And we put it out there, and suddenly people started to warm up to this music, because it's something that is easy for the ear. And because of that, I remember one day we were going to sing somewhere. This lady says, you know, I work in a bar. She comes from Durban. She says she works in a bar, and our song came on one gospel, right? And she says that time she actually froze, because apparently she has been exposed to the message before, and she backslid. And that day she saw us, you know, she saw the ladies in their long dresses, she saw everybody dressed well, and what hit her hard was that the song just went straight and spoke to her heart. And that day she actually wrote to us on Facebook and said, where are you guys? Can you put me in touch with some people? Why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because sometimes when you put your music together yourself, you run short of bringing the best out of it. Write the music, make sure that the lyric content is good, make sure that the musical structure is sound, but give it over to somebody that actually works as a producer to produce the song. You're gonna thank me. You're gonna
Okay.
thank me
All
in
right.
a few months time.
Thank you. Thank you so
Absolutely
much.
valuable. I'm going to go over to Sister Benice's track right now. Wow, Sister Benice, that was some good playing there.
Mm.
Don't you just want to introduce yourself to us?
Okay, I'm Sister Bernice Lavender, also known as Bunji, and I'm from South Africa, Richards Bay. And I've been serving at our Richards Bay Spoken Word Fellowship, as a keyboardist for the past 22 years. I started as a very little girl. I was actually, at the age of 12, I started playing for our Sunday school. Our Sunday school actually had a band with the original band, who is still the band today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and my pastor is actually Pastor Thomas Reddy. And so this whole journey started from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love it. It's in me. And just worship God and, through the gift that is given. I know it's a long time and I should be to a certain level, but, every day we're learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, have you got any formal training?
Not at all. My dad was actually the keyboardist before that. And strange enough, he wasn't the one to teach me. I was just a little girl with his keyboard at home, which I actually have still. I was like 7 years when I played that keyboard, and my first song was "Mary Had a Little Lamb." And from there, it was just self-taught. It was something
Okay.
within, and just played and played. Eventually, got into Sunday school. And then we kicked the older guys out and stepped into the church band. And I'm still part of the band right up to today.
Oh,
So,
wow. And I
yeah.
mean, that is what I can tell. You've got a family, you've got a little baby, and you are still playing. How are you
Yes.
managing?
I tell you, my mom is a superhero. Without her, I promise you, I don't know how I would do it. I mean, I had my two babies, and I would be sitting with them, when they were born, and thinking when I would get back to my keyboard. It's in there. And before I know it, they grown a little, and I'm back there. So nothing could tear that apart.
Yeah.
I'm thankful to God for that. Yeah. And the other thing, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I've been songwriting since the age of 15.
Oh, wow.
I've been penning songs I've got files of songs that I haven't even recorded yet. There's 2 albums that I have done,
Yeah.
and they are out there, but slowly, like our brother said, it's hard to get it through, but with time, I'm trusting the Lord. This is actually an answered prayer I must share with you. When I did start with my music, the church has been very, very supportive. My pastor, he's like someone who's loved music, so he's always been behind us, and just wanting the best for us through our music. And he appreciates every kind of style and genre, and so it's given us an opportunity to actually play a lot of different styles, a lot of Zulu, a lot of so we covered quite a lot of different styles of music in our band. And this has all influenced my writing and my playing as well, or the producing of my music as well. So
Yeah.
there's,
So, so
there's quite a lot to it.
I heard you sing online, a couple of weeks ago as well. Which other
Yes,
instrument do you play?
I actually play the guitar. It's not my strongest instrument, but I love playing the guitar as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great stuff. So, tell me that keyboard that you're playing there, what make is it? What are you playing with?
It's a Caswell SP47.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, yes. And originally I started off with a Yamaha, and I do like the Yamahas. They're really good. Yeah, I love
So,
the sound.
you love, okay. So now, getting back to church music, you grew up, in the church. You wrote some songs and all of that, and everything is inspired by the message. What is your view
Yes.
of music in the message?
See, most of my songs, I would say, has been inspired through the message. Growing up from a little girl, the message is all I've known. And I thank God for that, because a lot of the songs are inspired through the teachings, through the preachings, and I have been given the opportunity to go a lot out and sing. If you like, not always to believers. I've had the opportunity to go out to many denomination churches that have actually opened their doors and asked me to come and sing. And I've always said this. I just, how do I say it? My music, I strongly believe my calling is not just to the bride alone, with my music. I believe that, there's souls out there that need to know this truth. So when we
Mm,
go there, I'm also representing what we believe. And there's many times afterwards, or even while the concerts are happening and I get to meet other artists and stuff, they know the difference. They can see it immediately. As a sister, you are representing modesty, and you're representing what the Bible stands for.
Yeah.
And talking to my mom the other day, and I was saying, some of them get so conscious around us. All of a sudden, they conscious. And, if I can just be an example, when I get there, yes, I'm singing the word of God through my music. And if I can just be an example through my life and the way I speak, I just feel that I would point everyone to him, to Christ. That's my greatest desire. So given those platforms where I do get to go out there, my greatest desire is to be a testimony and to point others to Christ and to this message, the truth of today.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a beautiful testimony. I love to hear that. That's the kind of stories that we're looking for and the kind of inspiration we're looking for. I've
Yes.
said this before and I'll say it again. This is now not a competition that we're hosting here. We're not trying to
Yes.
see who's the best musician. But we are
Yes.
looking for the best testimony. Maybe that is a competition. Like my brother said, he was ministering through DSTV. Maybe that's an excuse for me to get DSTV so that I can listen to your ministry, my brother. So I've got a question for you. Where is your husband in all of this? Where does he fit in?
Well, he's my biggest support. I promise you. He's behind me 100%. He was just telling me the other day, when he first met me and we used to chat, one of the first things I did mention is my desire was always to record my album. And, record an album because he's known I've been writing music. And yes, after we got married, he made that come true. And, through God's help, he really, really went all out to get my first album done, and again the second album. And he really believes in my gift and stands with me 100% when I'm busy crying by him, when nobody wants to hear me. Or, I've had experiences where once I was invited to a concert. I was even already on the poster. This was somewhere between Durban and Richards Bay. And just the day before the concert, I was all ready to go. And I get a call, and the guy who had actually arranged for me to be part of the concert, he says, Bern, I hear that we had a problem because apparently they had this council of churches which they get together, before the concert. And they had a band that actually came through from India. So they were the main hosts. And I don't know how they heard that I'm a believer, because I didn't say anything about that. When they asked me to come in, it was just as an artist. So so they call me and they say, so he says, are you a Message believer? Do you believe in a prophet called Brother Branham? And
Wow.
so it was an opportunity for me. So I stood my ground. And I said, yes, I do believe in the ministry of Brother Branham. And, that is what I stand for. And, I didn't cut any corners or go around the bush. What I stand for, I told him. And he says, I'm sorry, Bern, but when they got together and they heard you are part of this group, you cannot be a part of this concert. I tell you, so yeah, as human, I sort of like, what a big disappointment. And, you're all ready to go out there. And, I just deflated and wondered, what's this now? And, but anyway, I said, no, it's not a problem. We left on good terms. And you wouldn't believe it. That guy came to one of our Message conventions in Durban, and he made sure he bought my CD. And the convention, and then up to this day he follows my music. Is one of my biggest supporters, and he's coming from a church who doesn't want to hear anything about me. So I've been through that, and not long after that disappointment, maybe just a day or two, again I get another invitation, and here God opens a wide door, and from there it's just been openings and openings. And my greatest desire was to, with the believers, I did have a problem. There was never this platform where I could approach believers and, present my music. And I prayed so hard about this. And it's been like, I think, the third or fourth event amongst our believers. And it means the world to me,
Oh,
to
wow.
be the bride and to have this. It's you don't know the prayer that has been answered through this. So thank you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. So I want to ask you both a question now. Um, for your concerts, Sister Bernie, let's start with you. Do
Okay.
you charge for your concert?
Okay. My first and second launches were totally free. It was anybody, open to everybody. The second concert, which I did in Durban, was 20 Rand per person.
Wow.
20 Rand. And I can't say that there weren't people, but it definitely was not what I expected, But I thank God for the people that are still there supporting me, from day one and up till now. And I'm just trusting God that He would open the hearts of many more to come,
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
give up on that. I don't.
Brother Sibusiso, do you charge?
Let me answer the why first, and then no. The truth is we charge. So, but let me justify that. We we are fortunate that we're not living out of music. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
Mhm.
We do music because we've got this big vision that we want to rewrite a hymn book, and
Okay.
I know it's big, right? You don't rewrite a hymn book, but if you write enough songs, they might just become a hymn like 2 generations from now.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
so we charge because we want to get the good sound, the good lighting, the good experience. Because most of the times when we go to these events, we want to create a certain experience. We want people to leave and say, "Wow, we have seen God in that space."
Mm.
And we've learned that for you to be able to do that, you need some cash.
Yeah.
Just to give you just to give you an example, we did a show in Pretoria for 300 people, and the cost of the show, it was at Sheraton Hotel. The cost of the show was just over 70,000 rand. All
I
right,
know.
and we were not recording. We were not recording. It was just a show. We had lighting. We did arrange some cameras, but we had the sound. We had instruments in there. That's another thing. We don't when we do shows, we don't carry our keyboards around. We get people to bring them. We play, and then people can pack them away. Otherwise, it becomes you are then running around with cables. So yeah, so yes, because of that, brother, we do. I hope it's not the same.
Well, one more thing, and I say, when I did my second launch, there was a lot of cost involved. Actually, from the CDs itself, the first production, if I'll be honest with you, for the first CD by the producer in Durban, it costed us 80 grands. And believe me, we didn't have that. My hubby is still paying loans towards that CD and the second one. And even the sales of CD, that's the part that I can't understand, because everyone wants your CD free. But if you know the story behind, I mean, there's so much that is, am I hitting? But it's the truth. There is so much. If I were to tell you the story that goes into it, if I have books with a breakdown of cost to every kind of thing to get that CD done. It's a ridiculous amount, and 100 rand somebody cannot pay to buy a CD. I mean, it's a concern. Why would you not do it?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I struggle with that. And even with the launch, like I said, just to get the band from Durban to Richards Bay was about 9 grand for the band alone, just to
Mm,
my music. And
mm,
it is the reality, that's what they're going to cost. So there is a lot of cost that's involved with our music. And that's why if we were to charge, those are the reasons
why?
we charge. Yes.
I would like to see, we've got the chat going below. So I'm hoping you guys will be on that chat. And then we'd like to see the input from some other believers out there because it is a contentious topic amongst everyone. Why are the believers charging us? We expect everything for free from our fellow
Mm,
believers. Why are they trying to make money off us? And as our brother Sibusiso said, luckily for them, it's not their living, it's not their bread and butter that we are
yes.
playing for, because then it's a different situation.
Yeah.
Mm,
Because I mean, if you're enjoying the music, I feel pay for it because we pay for every other. If you buy a Gaither CD, you're gonna pay. A Jimmy Swaggart CD,
exactly.
you're gonna pay for it. So why not support our message believers and grow their music?
But I must also
Yes.
say, brother, if we were having this conversation like maybe 5, 10 years ago, maybe people were not justified to pay, because
Yeah.
we maybe we were not at a level where we produced things, our music that you know uh, was worth, because you see, it's about value, right? The
Hmm.
reason
Mhm.
you pay more for a Mercedes Benz is because you associate a higher value to it than another brand, you know.
Mm,
So if you associate value into the music that we are producing, then this conversation is is very easy conversation. People will just
yes,
pay, right?
absolutely.
So I think it's a two-way road. Where, yes, as Sister Benny said, where it becomes a bit problematic is when you have done your best and and people still want them free. Eish, yeah, no, it's
No, that's a good one. No, I think that's a good one.
Um,
You know what? I think we've gone into that one. I really didn't expect us to go down that particular road this evening, but I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did because I know a whole lot of musicians that, it's their livelihood. So they
mm,
need to get paid. And with the result, I actually spoke to a young brother earlier this evening. He wanted somebody on, with us this evening, and he said, this person is playing for a Pentecostal church just so that he can get paid, and it's a reality. These things are happening. I'm not going to open that particular pot for discussion, but it is a reality. If musicians
mm.
are doing this as a livelihood, it is costly. And we appreciate what you guys are doing. We really love what you're doing. So why, I paired you up this evening with Brother Keith, and I want us just to go through his song because he's a guitarist, but he also plays some piano. So I'm going to quickly go through his song and then let's have a chat with Brother Keith. Wow, Brother Keith. I don't know what to say. I think I can listen to that all evening. Um, so, Brother Keith, tell us a bit about where you are from and your background in music.
Good evening, Brother Delton. Yeah, I'm from Cape Town, and I fellowship with Pastor Stephen Dilo at Hebron Tabernacle.
How long are you playing the guitar?
I've been playing the guitar for more than 30 years now that I've been playing. So yeah, I'm quite a veteran, and I've been my first tutor was obviously my dad. He used to teach me some gypsy jazz and Latin, and after that, before that, when my dad used to teach me, I used to play by ear, and after that, I went to go find myself a tutor, a classical guitar tutor, and that's when I started to read music and did my exams, etc., etc. And after that, I found myself a flamenco tutor, a jazz tutor, and I must be honest, I had the best of both worlds. So yeah, uh, I'm quite versatile when it comes to especially the guitar.
Tell us a bit about the guitar that you prefer to play on. Is it steel string or nylon string? And what is the brand that you're playing?
Um, the My preference of guitar is the normal nylon string guitar. Um, I do play the electric guitar. I do play the steel string as well. But if it's up to me, every song that I can play, I'll play it on the nylon string. But obviously, there's a preference in sound. Um, Whatever song you play, you need to adjust to the type of song. Then you need a different guitars or different songs, obviously. Yeah.
Is this the only instrument that you play?
The other instruments I do play piano. I'm a professional piano tuner, so yeah, I need to at least play a little bit of piano. And yes, I don't think you'll send your car to a mechanic that can't drive. So in my case, I need to be able to play the piano. Yeah, but I'm not a serious pianist. But yet, in church, I do play the piano. I'm the keyboardist in the church, and I really enjoy uh, uh, just messing around on the piano as well. Yeah. And I do play a little bit of bass, and yeah, I can find my way through the banjo, the upright bass as well, um, the mandolin as well. And I was exposed to quite a couple of instruments. Yeah, so I, uh, I can find my way through quite a couple of instruments, but yes, for sure, the guitar is my instrument of choice.
And then lastly, please tell us, what is your view on music in the message?
The music in the message, sure, it's a it's a quite a controversial subject. I played at many different venues. I've different functions with different believers in the message. At certain places, I was told beforehand, uh, I mustn't go overboard, especially with my improvisation and things like that. When I switch over to the more jazzy style, but yeah, um, but but as far as I'm concerned, as a musician, a person must be allowed to express yourself, and when I'm limited, it becomes a problem. Then it's almost like you're trying to silence me. But yeah, we all have different opinions. But yeah, as far as the music goes in in the message, um, music is evolving all the time, and you I've noticed that in different churches, some churches they play country style, some churches they play a more bluesy style, some churches they play more contemporary style. Um, my pastor, Pastor Stephen Dilo, he allows us a lot of leeway in our church. We as musicians, we can express ourselves a lot, and yeah, so we there's no limit where the music is concerned, but yet we know how to control ourselves, what is allowed and what is not allowed. So yeah, sometimes you my opinion is just that when you come in Spain, you'll hear a more Spanish flavored style of playing. When you come in America, obviously you hear American style of playing. And when you come in Latin America, you'll hear a Latin American style of playing.
So I'm going to quickly open up to everyone here. Is there perhaps a question? Let's start with Sister Bernice. Is there a question that you'd like to ask Brother Keith?
Brother Keith, would you like to play for me someday? On my CD, next CD. I'd love to have you on. Wow, that's so beautiful.
When it comes to accompanying you, sister, on a CD, that will be if you think I can do it, yeah, sure, no problem. But you must just give me the whatever music you're gonna do. You must just give me like 8 years or so ahead of the time, so that you can learn the music. Only joking, no problem. If you feel I can accompany you, I'll do it.
Brother Sister, do you have a question for Brother Keith?
Yes. In fact, I was going to ask him this, the same question as Sister Benny, because really that is like,
Wow.
I've never had somebody play the guitar like this.
It's beautiful.
Wow.
Wow.
That is really something.
And it's different. It's classical. It sounds to me like
Yes.
you know, even the way he holds the guitar, you can't help but admire that. That is beautiful. It would have been nice to have him maybe do an acoustic song, you know, with one of us. So it would be great.
My brother, the style that I'm playing, these on the recording that I forwarded to Brother Dalton was the style that I'm playing there is a classical style, but I'm quite versatile. I can literally cover all genres of music. So yeah, it's no problem. Whenever you need, whenever you're in Cape Town and you wanna do or you're coming to do a show here in Cape Town, I'll be more than happy to accompany you. Sure.
Now, I just want to add this story about Brother Keith. A few years ago, many years ago, probably about 10, around there, 10 years ago, we were sitting at someone's house. It was New Year's Eve, and there was a guitar, and Sister Yosha was there, I was there, and Yosha and myself, we fiddled on the guitar and played all the music we knew in the first 30 minutes we were done. And then, this Brother Keith took this guitar from us, and he said he just wants to see something. Man, it was one of the best New Year's Eves I've ever had. We sat on this couch. I fell asleep. I actually remember falling asleep, waking up past 2 in the morning, and he was still playing. It was the most beautiful thing I ever experienced, and he definitely has an amazing, amazing gift, and I really just like to hear what is his story and why is he doing it, and how he's blessing the saints with this. I think that's all from us, folks. Thanks for joining us this evening. Wow, wasn't that amazing? Those pianists and the guitarist, Brother Keith, totally blew us away. And I think their testimonies and their stories, and they took us in a whole different direction. The concerts that they're playing and the music that they are making for the bride, for the church, for the message believers out there. And I really want you to support them if you can, wherever you are. Just try and support these people. So next up, we've got the violinists, and this is the string section of the orchestra. And I know that they are not in every single church, but we had to do a bit of digging, and we found a few people to interview this evening. Mostly sisters, but I think you're going to be blessed by the next segment. Wow, Brother Jeremy, that is some good playing there on the cello. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from?
Yeah, sure. So I play cello at Emmanuel Gospel Center Church. I've played there for about 5 years now, and I really enjoy playing there. I usually play melody lines during pre-service. We all alternate, and then other times I'll join the other instruments and play an accompanying line, like an alt line or a bass line.
Okay, have you got any formal training?
Yes, I went for lessons for cello when I was 7 years old, and I only stopped lessons 2 years ago when I finished my grade 8 exam.
Oh wow, that's amazing. You really play that instrument very well. And I think it's a very unique instrument to see in a church, especially.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of special because it's got such a unique sound. So it comes in handy in different songs where you just want something different and unique. And what's also interesting about the cello is it's very versatile. So like I was saying earlier, you can play the melody, you can play the bass line, you can play an alt line. And the difference between the strings is a whole tone. So on cello, you've got 4 tones, and then the next string is a tone. So basically, if you played with your fingers going up, then if you shifted one more tone, you'd be on the next string. Like those would be the same note. But on guitar, it's one tone less. So
Ah,
making that mental adjustment was quite difficult at first because I'd shift to go to the equivalent string, but now it was 2 notes higher than I should have been. So that was a bit confusing. And also
ah,
on a guitar, I'm sure you know there's that on the highest string when you're tuning, it's quite obvious because you go down the frets, and then on the second last string, when you're tuning it to the
goes one
same
back.
as the previous string, you go back one
Yeah,
semitone. So
yeah.
even that was difficult for me because on the cello, all the increments are the same.
Oh wow, that's so interesting. I mean, to hear that, because I just imagine if you can play one string instrument, you should be able to play all of them. But obviously, that's not the case.
Yeah.
So, okay, from my limited experience, I'm gonna think that, string instruments are more for the slower songs, the slower music. It's not for your faster music. Do you play in the faster songs or do you stick to the slower songs?
We play in all of the songs. Yeah, but they do have more of a forte when it comes to slower songs or more melodious songs.
Okay. All right. So my last question to you for this evening, what is your opinion then around music in the church? And specifically, this is what I want you to answer for us. You play in an orchestra and you produce a very specific sound from the orchestra. According to you, is that what music in the church should sound like?
Yeah, so according to me, yes, I think we have a really good mix at EGC, is we have the the more orchestral elements such as violins and cellos and flutes, and then we've also got saxophones, and then the traditional band element with um, piano, drums, bass, guitar, and
Mhm.
I think we've got a really good mix. So you've got you've got some versatility for different types of songs. Different people can take the lead, melodies, and it just having all these instruments brings a really full sound to the worship.
Mm. So Jeremy, which other instruments do you play?
So I learned piano first. So I've learned the piano for a few years, and a few years back I started learning guitar, but it's not on the same level as my cello, unfortunately. And I've played a little bit of drums, but not much.
Okay, cool. Right, so I'm going to quickly open up to the others. Let's start with Daniil. Daniil, do you have a question for Brother Jeremy?
Um, Something simple. What is your favorite song to play? Church song to play on the
That is
piano?
a tough one. Um, as the deer panteth for the water.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh wow, okay.
It's one of those slow ones that the cello, the resonance just really takes over.
Hmm.
I can imagine it's quite beautiful.
All right, Sister Celeste, do you have a question?
When you play in church, do you play using sheet music or do you play by ear?
So the vast majority of our music is playing by ear, but we've had a few occasions where we learned a song from sheet music,
Okay.
and then maybe after we've played it 3 or 4 times, then it's back to either what you remember from the sheet music or by ear, because now you know the song. But the vast majority is by ear.
Hmm, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Thanks, Sister Celeste. We'll go over to Sister Becky.
Hey, would you recommend going for the classical training up to such a level? Do you think it helps in executing, saying, playing church music?
So when I'm playing, I'm not necessarily thinking of the theory behind it. It's more instinctive. However, I think if I didn't have the training that I had, I don't think I'd be able to play as confidently. And also, I probably wouldn't come up with the harmonies that I do. So I would suggest that the training does help.
Cool.
Okay, that's very, very interesting to know because I think a lot of people watching us this evening is going to be asking the same question. If they want to take up that cello as an instrument, do they need to go for, 8 years of training, 6 years of training, or will they be able to get by in church music with 2 or 3 years of training? I cannot imagine that the instruments you are playing this evening, one can just pick up and go into the church band and say, hey.
Yes. When it comes to cello and even violin, you definitely need some help and some training to get a proper sound, proper technique, and yeah, if you're doing harmonies and whatnot, some basic theory knowledge will really help. But you don't need as much formal training as I've had, but probably once you've had lessons for 2 or 3 years, and then maybe the others can give their thoughts on it, I think you could then practice with recordings and getting your ear so that you can play by ear, and then you should be able to join.
Oh wow, that's really amazing. Brother Jeremy, thanks so much for those answers and for the interview this evening. I also think it's the first time that we've only got, one guy amongst all the ladies. Usually we've only got one lady amongst all the guys. So that's very good. So on that note, we're going to go over to Sister Celeste and let's just listen to a recording first. Ah, that's too short, Celeste. That is way too short. That sounded so good. Don't you just want to introduce yourself to us?
Okay. I'm Celeste. I'm from Cape Town, and I attend Cape Town Tabernacle Church.
Okay, so Celeste, tell us, how long are you playing your instrument? Is it a violin or viola?
Okay, so that is a viola that you just saw now, but I started off with the violin when I was about 11, 12 years old, and then I played that for about 6.5 years, and then I only started the viola about a couple of months ago. Yeah.
And have you had formal training?
Not with the viola, but I had formal training with the violin. I went to a music school called Do Soleil. I think it's one of the first music schools that was established in the country, so it has quite a good history.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I don't know. What is the difference between a viola and a violin? It's just a baby violin, isn't it?
No. A viola and a violin, they have three of the same strings. They share three strings, but then there's one string that's different. So I would say that the viola would be the baby cello, if I could say that. The violin has strings E, A, D, and G, and then the viola has strings A, D, G, and C. So it's
Oh,
just
okay.
tone as well. Yeah.
So if you can play one, you cannot automatically play the other one.
I think you can, but the finger spacing between the different instruments, it's a bit slight difference. It's bigger for the viola because the viola is bigger in size as well. So kind of have to adjust a little bit, which was quite hard for me.
She was okay. So but which other instruments do you play besides these two?
I wouldn't say I play the guitar, but I can play a couple of chords on the guitar, and that's about it.
Right. So then my next question to you, like I asked Jeremy, the difference between guitar and violin, viola, is it a whole lot different?
I'm not a guitarist at all, so I can't answer that question.
Do you play your instrument in church or not?
Not in church, but we do have a youth band that was going last year. So Daniel and I were both playing in that.
Okay, so that's kind of where you practice your instrument. And do you think it fits in church music or not really?
It definitely fits in church music. I think it creates such an amazing atmosphere, for the pre-service. It's quite hard to play on those fast songs, but for those slow ones, it really gives something else.
Sure. I'm gonna ask someone later the same question, but a few years ago there was a Asian lady that kind of reintroduced the sound of violin into, secular music, and she was playing this fast violin. I forget what her name was. I imagine her surname was May or something, and she played. Say again.
Vanessa May.
Yeah, I see. I remember the surname. So she introduced this fast style of playing, with pop music and secular music, and suddenly everybody started loving the violin all over again because it wasn't just the traditional, Bach music and all that old classical music. So I think there's definitely a stigma attached to the instrument that it's, more for the slower type songs and that.
Definitely.
You
Quite
agree?
it's quite versatile, so it depends how you use it as well. You can use it differently for different songs.
Okay, that's great. And then in church, in church music, what is your opinion then about having an orchestra in church with strings and those kind of instruments?
Oh, I would love it if we have an orchestra with string instruments in our church. It would really be something amazing. It'll sound so
Okay,
good.
great stuff. Is there anybody else? Let's start with Sister Danielle. Do you have a question for Sister Celeste?
Um, what was it like? I know you mentioned the spacing and things that was different from a violin and a viola, but were there any other things that were different?
Um,
Because
yes,
the sound is definitely different as well.
it's because it's so big inside, it's quite uncomfortable on your shoulder, so my
Mm.
shoulder gets sore really quickly. I can't play for too long.
Mm.
And there's a little bit like small technical aspects, in terms of your bowing and your posture, and yeah, it's just, and you have to hear the pitch as well. Sometimes you
Mm.
can off pitch by like a half a centimeter, and you have
Yeah.
to like do everything all over again if you're busy recording something. So, yeah.
Brother Jeremy.
I was going to ask the same question, so I don't know.
So no question, Sister Becky?
While listening, I thought, gosh, that sounds very, very deep for a violin. So I was glad to hear it was a viola, but it's a beautiful instrument, and I think it's got such a soulful sound, and I absolutely love it. And if I could get my hands on one, I would play it too. So that's really great that you are venturing beyond the violin. As for a question, I don't know about a question.
Okay, great stuff. Thanks very much. I think that went well. We're going to go over to Sister Danielle Kwang-Lee's video. Wow, Sister Danielle, that was some amazing playing there.
Thank you.
Jeez. Tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from?
I am also from Cape Town, and I also serve at Cape Town Tabernacle.
I've heard that you and Sister Celeste often play duets together.
Yes, and it's so much fun.
Okay, so I was watching you, I looked at your fingers, and I saw the instrument, and there were times that it sounded like two violins were playing, and it wasn't.
No, no.
What were you doing there?
So that's something called double stops. When you play two strings at the same time, we have things like double stop scales. They are very difficult to master, I personally think, because you really have to be in tune all the time. But mostly I was sort of cheating there. So we have G, D, A, and E. So if I know that the chord is D, I play with the open D string. And if I know the chord is G, I play with the open G string. And where I can, I'm not perfect at it, but where I can, I try to play some double stop scales just to make it sound a bit different.
Wow, it definitely sounds amazing. I must say, it sounds like there's, two guitars or two violins playing at the same time, and I think that's quite amazing. How long have you been playing?
I started quite late. I was 10 years old. And I am still playing today, and I started lessons when I was 10, and I still take lessons now, even at university, because I feel like you can never stop learning about your instrument. So as long as I possibly can, and we possibly can afford it, I want to take on private lessons. So I'm still doing that now, yeah.
Gee whiz, that is very interesting. I think we've heard from all the instruments we've had, so far we've heard everyone saying you need to practice, practice, practice all the time. But I don't think everyone has said you need to go for lessons, lessons all the time.
I
Are you
don't
going to
really do it
venture?
for, sorry.
Are you going to venture into the water that says that your instrument is the most difficult?
I think so. No, I think each instrument has their own. I won't touch that, but I think each instrument has their own difficulties for sure. It's part of the reason why I still attend lessons, because I just never think I'm good.
I love that. I love that attitude that you've got there. And I think a lot of us, if we could afford it, if we had the time, if we had the money, I think we'd all still continue with lessons and just become better at our instruments. That's very, very interesting to know. Do you play any other instruments?
I started on piano, and then 2 years later I started on violin. So I'm studying music, so I kept piano as my main instrument because violin was a bit under the required level at the time. So I'm in my final year now, and I still practice piano.
Oh, wow. That is so good. And in church, what do you play?
Violin.
The violin. Okay.
I'm learning, I'm trying, but I'm struggling to play piano at
Okay.
church. It's very different.
Okay. So how many string instruments do you have in the church orchestra band?
We just have guitar and bass guitar.
Oh wow, so it's just you on the violin, no one else.
Yeah, so I don't play in the church band, so Celeste and I play in the youth band, which
Ah, the youth
is,
band. Okay, I'm
yeah,
with you. I'm with you. Wow. Okay, so you better grow that orchestra there in Cape Town, hey? Um,
working on it.
I think you have to because there's a lot of young people out there, that want to play a different instrument or feel like playing something different, and I think these orchestras is what inspires them. Everybody sees the traditional keyboard, bass, drums, guitar, and that's what we go for. So I think that's the traditional stuff. So my last question to you then is, what is your opinion of music in the church?
Well, that's a very big question. In terms of the band, I think what I think is a nice step to work towards is to have basically an orchestra in the church. I think the more instruments you have, I'm thinking from a strings point of view, but I think the more you have a violin and cello and whatever, they strength in numbers. So it sounds better together. It sounds nicer when they are more together. So I often enjoy playing with someone else. So with Celeste and I, and we'll usually switch between harmony and melody, and I love playing harmony. So I love that can happen.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I think also your instrument that you play. I mean, you can only have one bass guitar in a band. You can only have one set of drums in a band. But violins, you can have quite a few of them, etc. I think also you tend to then just disappear into the crowd. You're
Yes,
not
that's
the
true. We have a lot of brass instruments. We have
yeah.
French horn, and we have two trumpets, and completely drowned out.
Okay, I hear you. Right, let's start quickly with the others. Let's hear if they've got any questions. Okay, Sister Celeste, do you have a question you'd like to ask Sister Danielle?
Yes. I know you play a lot of music on a daily basis, and when you have training, you teach and you go to class. Do you feel yourself improving the more you play? Is there any, yeah?
Definitely. And I joined orchestras as well, our university orchestra. And what I'm learning is that the string section is not always the melody, which I think is sometimes it's accompaniment as well. And what I often find fun to do is when I have music, both orchestra and private, if there's some technique that I see, I want to see how I can apply it to church songs and church playing. My aim at the moment is not always to be in the melody. I'm a very shy person, so I don't like to be in front a lot. So I'm always trying to find how can I accompany, in what way can the violin be an accompanying instrument, and it can happen. So that was really interesting for me to see, always exciting to see. And the more I progress, the more pieces I get and do and things and all the questions I can ask my teacher and stuff. There's a lot of things that I learn, and that I always, when I approach a hymn, I always think, what can I possibly do to make this a bit different than just a single melody playing throughout. Very difficult though.
Hmm. Wow, very interesting. Sister Becky, do you have a question?
Um, it's interesting that piano is actually your first instrument, seeing as you're studying. I presume you're studying music.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you think learning piano first did it help, or did it make learning violin more difficult?
It definitely helped. In the beginner stages, you're busy learning, you're practicing intonation, you're practicing being in tune, and that takes time. So having the piano and knowing, like, I could always play certain notes and just figure out, oh, okay, that's what I need to do. And the layout of the piano, the tones and semitones, the distance between the white and black notes, that helped me connect it with piano as well. I mean, violin as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hmm.
it's nice to have because on the string instrument you have no frets, say like you do on a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a C, you know, that you could get really lost in. So I think having the black and white reference really helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow. Brother Jeremy, do you have a question?
Yes. So with the creation of that youth band that you mentioned that you and Celeste are part of, is there a certain stage when you guys will join the full band and make it fuller?
I don't know. At the moment, how it is that a lot of people have just started the instruments, so they are beginners in the instrument, and then you get Celeste and I who we've been doing it for a while. So we sort of, what I can understand is that they're trying to sort of get everyone on the same level before they present it or before they join the bigger, because at church it's not sheet music. It's just the chorus leader just goes and he doesn't care the keys, he just sings, and then it's quite difficult. So like I wouldn't think a beginner's it will be very hard for them. So they're trying to get them there. So perhaps in a few years, I definitely
Okay.
think it's in the works.
Okay.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Thanks, Sister Danielle, and thanks everyone for the questions. I think that point that you covered, Sister Becky brought up on the frets, we covered it last week with the bass guitar, speaking on the frets and the fretless. And for us, playing with guitar, playing in the frets, it's so easy. You don't have to get it exactly right. You can get it just before the fret, in the middle of the fret. It doesn't matter where, as long as you're kind of there or thereabouts. But once you're playing on a fretless instrument, you can't just go for there or thereabouts. It has to be pretty accurate. Let's listen to Sister Becky. Wow, Sister Becky, that was amazing. Please introduce yourself to us.
So I'm Becky van der Walt, and I'm also at Emmanuel Gospel Center. I don't play currently in the church because, well, I played for many years, maybe like 10 years, and then I got old and had kids and moved out. But I find it difficult to find time to play, so I enjoy projects like these where I have to get my violin out
Wow.
and get playing again. Yeah.
Okay, so for those that don't know, Sister Becky is married to Brother Walton, and we had an amazing session with him on the piano. How does it feel to be married to a musician, a fellow musician?
It's really awesome because I think it's such a big passion in both of our lives, and so to be able to understand it and to support each other in it it's really lovely, because I think people who marry people who don't understand music, they can't understand why you could be so obsessed with it. So it's great, and we can serve the Lord together with it, which is, I think, been the biggest blessing. Yeah.
Oh wow, that is so amazing. And I mean, we've heard Brother Walton play, and he's so talented, and you definitely talented on that violin. Tell us a bit about your formal training.
So I also started with piano, My mom was a piano teacher, so there was no escaping that one. And then I started violin. I think I was in grade 1. I remember being very small, and I got my first violin, and it was this tiny little thing, and I was like, how can I play that? It's a toy. I can't learn on that thing. But yeah, so I started that and played all the way through school, and then I did a BMAS at Wits, and yeah, finished that. But I didn't major in performance, so I didn't do instruments as major. I did composition.
Okay. Oh, wow. So I think this is the first time that we've got so many musicians that have so much formal training in their instruments. It makes the rest of us that's just playing by ear really look like real amateurs. So on the composition side, you have scored some music for, I think it was Eagle's Rise, is that right?
Yes, I wrote all the string parts for the string section for Eagles Rise, and also later the Linda Jans concert. Yeah.
Wow. That's definitely a round of applause right there. Oh, gee whiz, that is really amazing. I think very impressive. Is it easier, again, the same question, is it easier to write, church music than your traditional classical type music?
Um, well, it's the same principles. So whether you're writing what you hear by ear or whether it's the same. You have to count it out and be really exact. There's no by ear you can quickly slip something in, whereas when you're writing you have to count it and put it very accurately. So it's a very time-consuming process, um, but very rewarding when it comes together. And it saves a lot of time in rehearsals because you don't have everyone trying to figure out, let's try this, no, you do that. Everyone just gets their music and they play straight away. So
Anyway,
that's
and it's
really,
perfect.
yeah.
And it's perfect every time.
Not quite, but almost.
Because I can
Yeah.
imagine, in a normal band setup, if the guy's in a good mood, he's playing, upbeat and adding more notes. And then if he's in a not such a good mood, then he's playing a bit less and more, mellow. But if the music's written
Yeah,
out in front of him, it's not dependent on his mood. He just has to play
exactly.
what's in
Yeah.
front of him.
Yeah,
I think that's a
exactly.
very, very good thing. Sister Becky, do you play any other instrument?
No, just I still play the piano a
Mm.
bit. I accompanied some of my students in the lower grades, but with Wilton around, you don't really go there. You don't have to.
You don't have to. Do you teach music?
I used to before I had kids, so I'd go to a few schools in the afternoon and give lessons. Yeah,
Okay.
I enjoyed that. Yeah.
So are we gonna get the link to your YouTube channel where we can learn from you a bit? Or not yet?
No, no.
Not yet. Okay, I'll leave that challenge with you and Brother Walton to sort out.
Okay.
Okay, so speaking with your experience, musically, formal experience and church experience, I'd like to hear what is your opinion then about music in the church?
I'd say I really appreciated my formal training and also my opportunity to play in orchestras, because obviously when you start in the lower grades you start off mostly in third violin, and then eventually you work yourself up to second, and eventually you get to first. But and I think most people just want to get to first violin, they just want to be in the front seat. But looking back I can see starting on third, you really build your ear um, to hear, like Danielle was saying, to hear all the other layers in the music, not just the melody. And then by playing those, you're forced to hear them, and then you can apply them when you get to church. And also, like Danielle was saying, if you many instruments, you get it can start to clash because everyone wants to play the melody a bit differently. So I think in church music, it's very important to let everyone have a space. So you can't be always playing the melody because it gets very clashing. So in that way, if you have violins who can just fill in long notes and create more of an atmosphere than a melody, I think it can be very effective.
Oh, that's very interesting. I'm just a little bit lost. When you say, third violin, second violin, first violin, what exactly are you referring to?
So in a classical orchestra, you would have a first violin section and then a second violin section, then your violas and then your cellos. So because you have so many violins, they split them into two. So you'll play two different parts, and usually the first violin will be playing the melody and the more difficult part, and the second violin will be more supportive parts. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that is a very important lesson, perhaps for many other instruments, because a lot of the other instruments we just go right up into first violin position. You know, you pick up a guitar, you're right there in the front. You pick up a bass guitar, you're right in the front. Piano, drums, even your trumpets and that in the church. If you're the only sax player or the trumpet player, you're right up there in the front. And I like the way your instrument works, where you can sit in the background and kind of learn a little bit and get that confidence before you move into the
Yes.
first violin seat. That's
Yes.
quite interesting. So let's ask the others. Let's start with Sister Danielle. Do you perhaps have a question for Sister Becky?
So there's this common misconception that violins are always melody and always high and always shrill and shrieky. I get told that a lot by people. How would you describe the violin? And also how, I would actually really like to know, what do you do besides playing melody, if that makes sense? So for example, harmony, or I don't know, different
Um,
techniques and things.
so I think you asked two questions. So the first one is, what do I think about the violin? I think it can get very shrilly, and I think it's an excellent instrument to show off on, and people like to show off. So it can get very irritating that way. But I think it's also, one of my teachers always said, use it as if you're singing, and play as if you're singing with your voice. And I wasn't blessed with a singing voice, so I like to sing with my violin, and so that's how I like to interpret the violin. And the second question, I think sometimes it's really nice just to play long notes and just whatever's within the chords that the band is playing, but just long chords and long notes. I think it fills a really nice layer.
Okay, Brother Jeremy, you perhaps have a question?
Yes. So, Bex, seeing as you're a teacher, perhaps you could tell the viewers that are perhaps thinking of learning violin and what's the most challenging part that you have to teach to your children, and what they find the most difficult in learning the violin?
I think a lot of people would think the fingering, but I actually think the bowing is really, really crucial, because if you don't hold your bow and play properly with your bow, you don't get a good sound. And that's one of the main things I spend a lot of time on, is just teaching them how to hold their bow and to play straight and flat. And I think they lose a lot of patience, but it's like a muscle memory. Once it's set, it's there, and then we move on to the fingering. So I think also with the violin, it's got quite a bad sort of reputation with beginners, because it's such a terrible sound and it can be so screechy, and everyone just says "shut up." But it's because the bowing technique is not properly developed. So I'd say that's very, very important for beginners. Yeah, and then once that's done, learning the fingering and things after that is a lot easier.
Sister Celeste, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm quite interested to know about the writing process. Could you maybe walk us through the steps that you take when you're busy composing something?
Yes. So the string parts I wrote, say for the concert music, we always start with the song. The songs that we worked off from, like say covers, were much easier to do because there was already a structure in place. So I basically counted the bars, put in all the chords, and then mark off the places, because you don't want strings playing throughout. So you'd want bits and say a chorus or second verse. And then I'll work from there and say fill in the first violin and the cello bass part, and then between there add in the rest of the notes. But working from songs from scratch was really challenging, because you've got nothing to work from. It's just like a blank canvas. So but yeah, pretty much the same method of filling in. So I work on paper a lot, and then I'll go to my program. I use Sibelius and fill it in there, which is also really nice, because then it can play back to you and you can hear what you've written.
Oh wow. This is really, really amazing stuff. And I think everybody's probably wondering, what does this sound like in the church? So we've managed to get a track from your church, with the orchestra playing. So I'm going to quickly play that before we let you go, just so you can hear what that sounds like for the rest of the people here.
Purify my heart, let me be as gold and precious silver. Purify my heart, let me be as gold, pure gold, refiner's fire. My heart's one desire is to be holy, set apart for you, Lord. I choose to be holy, set apart for you, Master, ready to do your will. Purify my heart, cleanse me from within, and make me holy. Purify my heart, cleanse me from my sin. Deep within, refiner's fire. My heart's one desire is to be holy, set apart for you, Lord. I choose to be.
Ooh, that sounded so beautiful. I'm so impressed with that orchestra every single time I hear them. And I must say, I want to commend you all this evening. When you read that scripture, where the king called David in and he had a bad spirit, then I think every single musician needs to sit with the instrument and think, could they really drive out a demon or a evil spirit with their instrument? I'm telling you honestly, from my point of view, the way I play bass guitar, I don't think I can drive out anything with that. But what I've heard this evening, you guys playing on the violin, wow, man! I'd listen to that right before I fall asleep, just to make sure there's no evil spirits around. You guys really, really played beautifully. I'm going to quickly ask you one last time if there's any other closing comments from your side. Sister Danielle?
It's been really inspiring to see that there are other people also playing violin and who have also gone through the beginner stages and know what it's like to get to where you are. And yeah, it makes me really proud to be part of the brand, the
Wow,
music.
awesome. Sister Celeste, on your side?
Oh man, I really enjoyed that video. I think I got goosebumps watching that. That was so beautiful, and it's so nice to interact with other people who play violin and cello, on the other side of the world. We
Yeah.
don't know much this side. I think it's just the Neil that I know that plays violin in the church. But yeah, that was really, really nice to see.
Well, you heard what we said the other night. You won't be able to hide away at conventions now. So make sure you have your instrument with you and see Sister Becky just before the convention starts to get your music sheets for the convention, and then book your spot on the stage. Brother Jeremy.
I'd just like to say I'm very thankful to the Lord for the part He's given to me, and I really enjoy making music that people like to listen to and that people can get a blessing from, and I'm really thankful for that.
Sister Becky.
It's so nice to meet other believers who play and who use their gifts for the Lord. I wish we could all just make one big orchestra together. I think we would have so much fun. And yeah, I think it's really great that there's people who put in time and effort to learn the instruments the best and then to use that for the Lord. I think it's really commendable.
Wow. Oh, thanks so much. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us this evening. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Oh, wow. I was so blessed by that. That was just totally amazing. Those violinists are really the kind of music that you want to play when you want to get rid of an evil spirit. Totally blessed, totally blessed. So up next, we've got the brass section, and we've only got saxophones this evening, and an interesting crowd of brothers, different ages, different churches, and have been playing for a long time, have been playing for a short time. We know that they've got a very, very good story to tell. So stay tuned and watch this next segment. I hope you'll be blessed. Wow, Brother Michael, that is some good playing there. Don't you just want to introduce yourself to us?
Okay, so my name is Michael. I go to Emmanuel Gospel Center, the same church as Brother Walton had.
Awesome. And how long are you playing your saxophone?
I've been playing for about 7 years now.
7 years. Do you have any formal training?
Yes, when I started playing, I had formal training for about 2 years.
And that's it. Do you think it's enough?
It definitely could have been a little bit more than that. But
Yeah.
The school had a choice of subjects after that. And what I wanted to study, I needed to take certain subjects. So I kind of had to drop music.
Ah, would you go back if you could?
Definitely, I definitely would.
I think that's interesting. So tell us, which saxophone are you playing there?
It's an alto sax consalmo prelude.
Okay, alto sax. And
Yes.
okay, so this is the same one that you play in church as well.
Yes, 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 Brother Dalton.
Okay, are there any other instruments that you play?
Yes, I also play the piano.
Oh wow, yes, multi-talented, hey? But I guess with Brother Wilton around, he doesn't give you a chance to play in church, eh?
No. Brother Walton definitely gives me. I mean, I play for items and every now and again, so I do play, but I would prefer not to because playing next to Brother Walton, yeah, it's a bit
Yeah,
tough.
we know. We know all about that. So you play in an orchestra, right? So you play with a few other brass instruments, and so which part would you typically play during a song? Would you change it up, or what? How would you take it on?
Normally I would play the melody, and then Brother Gershon would play harmony, and he try to fill in all like the small little spots and stuff. But it's normally I would normally play the melody. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Brother Gersh the same question later, so I'll ask you now. Which part is harder to play?
I would definitely say the harmonies and all those things that Brother Gershon does. He does it really, really well. So I don't know how he does it, but yeah, it's definitely harder.
Yeah, last week when we spoke as well, we spoke about, how the saxophone has the ability to color in, all the blank spaces in between. So the parts that your guitars and your piano's not reaching, that is where your saxophone just comes along, and it's really a talent to find a blank space and color it in just right, for the ear, so that you can hear it just right. So you say that, you've been around for a little while. I see you're still pretty young, and I guess you'll still be around for a much longer time. In your experience, in the church and playing, what is your opinion on music in the church?
Music, as in like the brass, the saxophone, or like music in
Yeah,
general. For
just the brass
brass,
instruments. Yeah.
I think brass definitely has a place in the church. As long as it's played the right way and within the right context, it definitely has a place.
Mm, mm.
Definitely.
I think that's very good, because so far we've seen that the brass plays a big part in the bands, and now we've seen in the orchestra it also fits in quite nicely. We must remember that our viewers out there, some people that have commented so far have told us that they don't, some just have a piano in church, or just have, piano and guitar, or just has a guitar. So I think for the viewers out there, we mustn't take it for granted that you've got such a big orchestra or big bands, that has brass and
No,
strings and all these wonderful
definitely.
things. And I really think you guys are doing a tremendous job. So I'm going to open quickly to questioning from the other guys on the panel this evening. Let's start with Brother Gersh.
So, Michael, yeah, I'm so happy
Yes.
you're on this platform today. I didn't know you were going to be on. It's good to see you, and it's definitely good to hear you. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I've been playing with you now for a short while, but it's to have you sit next to me, it's really good, and I really enjoy your playing. You're certainly very talented, and I must say, I mean, besides the sax, he's a great pianist, and I think he's going to be the future in our orchestra, I hope, for a long time to come. But you're playing, Michael. I commend you for your attitude and the way you conduct yourself, and you're an inspiration to me as well. So I just want to say, yeah, thanks, and keep up the good work. And I hope that, soon you'll be playing more harmony than me, so I can play a little bit more melody. But no, it's great, and all the best.
Thank you, Brother Gershon.
Brother Q, anything from your side?
Yeah. Well, so nice song. I love that song. How did you choose it? I almost chose the same song. So there's some connection here. Let me see what happened for you to choose that song.
Well, for me personally, I feel like the song it just means a lot to me as well. Like it's one of the first songs that I played when I got a chance to play saxophone. I played it for like the first time with my uncle, and since then it's been kind of a very close song to me.
Yeah, and I think there's something great with that song. It even without the words, because it's just the instrument playing, but there's that connection, and I think I felt it when you play. So well done. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the cue.
Absolutely true. I think that is, if any musician, we just spoke to the violinists now, and I said it's a challenge actually for everyone. If you can say that you can drive out spirits with your instrument, and if the king called David, imagine the king calls you with your instrument. What will be your choice of song that you will play to drive out the spirit? And I think that is a question that we should
I think
ask
this
every
song.
musician, every musician out there on your instrument. Yeah. So I think that's one that leaves us quite challenged. But I think, Brother Michael, well done on your choice of song. You definitely you've got the right idea there. Right. So let's move over to Brother Gersh. Whew, Brother Gersh, oh my goodness, that was amazing. That was really, really amazing. I think I just heard exactly what Brother Michael was speaking about there. Just all those little spots you managed to fill in, even on your own, playing the melody and filling them in. Brother Gersh, don't you just want to introduce yourself to us, please?
Yes, so I'm Gershom Chetty. I'm originally from Newcastle. And I've been in Johannesburg now for probably 20, no, sorry, I'm mixing it up, but a good couple of years. And I fellowship at Emmanuel Gospel Center. Wilton, who was on, I think it was a week ago or so. He's our orchestra leader. So yeah, I'm under his leadership there in the orchestra. And I play alongside Michael. And we under the pastorship of Brother Gideon Retief.
Oh wow, that's really amazing. So we had you on, we had your brother and your sister on, a couple of weeks ago, and
Yes.
playing the saxophone as well. And I'd like to hear an item with all three of you playing. I think you owe the viewers that much, to hear
Is
all
it?
three of you playing. Absolutely. So which other instruments do you play, Brother Gersh?
I play a few instruments, the piano. I started off in church with the accordion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, believe it or not, yeah, the older folks in back then, played accordion. A lot of the churches had like an accordion or guitar or so. So, yeah, I managed to get a mini accordion. And at the age of, I think, 12, I started playing in church, the accordion. I play one or two other instruments, but as the saying goes, I'm a jack of all trades, but I haven't mastered a single one of them.
No, Brother Gersh, I think you definitely mastered the sax. That's for sure. I haven't heard you on the other instruments, but I think the saxophone you definitely mastered. It sounds beautiful. And please work on that track for us with your siblings, where all three of you are playing. I think you need to drive down to Newcastle and make it happen for us, please.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely do that at some point.
So just tell us about the saxophone that you're playing right now.
My sax is called Yanigasawa, the Japanese sax, Japanese brand. So it's one of your semi-pro saxophones. So I started off with a Jupiter, which is your entry level. And yeah, it's, with time it rusted up a little bit and I needed to upgrade. So I did some research and yeah, this was advised at that time. So it's a good sax. Really enjoy it.
So I've got a question, for I think everyone in the instrument has got this, goal instrument that they'd like to own. But as far as saxophone is concerned, playing in church, does it matter to you as a person, just individually? Does it matter whether it's a good sax or not a good sax? Does it really matter that much?
To me personally, I do think it does, because your entry level sax doesn't really have a really good sound, Yeah, you probably do get one or two that are reasonably good, but as you grow in your instrument, you always want to get something slightly better. So the sound you get out of the more intermediate to pro saxophones, the better the sound. And yeah, it's a major role is your reed that you use as well. So I'm sure Brother Q will be able to give us more info on that, seeing that he's a pro, So yeah, but yeah, for me personally, I do think it does make a difference in a way. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's interesting. Do you have any formal training?
Very, very little. I do read a little bit of music. So when I started off, I think I was about 6 years old. I went for piano lessons, and I did a bit of sight reading then. But because I was young and I wasn't so into it, I went a couple of years doing that and got bored of it. I think it was because of all the theory and all the practicing and things you had to do. So at some point I just gave up and, I told my parents, I'm really not into reading music. But when I got my saxophone, I think I was around 16 years old. I went back to the same teacher to teach me how to read sheet music again to play my saxophone because I wanted to play in the school orchestra. So yeah, so I learned a bit of that. I played for a while in school, and yeah, that was basically it. But I wish I took it further, you know, and learned a little bit more on the theory side, on reading music, and because it helps a great deal. And when we, you know, we did that concert recently, we all had to go back and read music again. So it was, yeah, a learning process again. But yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you've got such an interesting, you know, history with music, and that is why I want to ask you this particular question. We just heard from the pianists as well, speaking a bit about concerts and all of that. And I know that you had quite a bit of involvement in the concerts that, you know, that Brother Wilton hosted. We know the Skosanas also, they've got a whole lot of shows and concerts, you know, going on. But I want to ask you now, with your involvement, you know, what is your view on the benefit of a concert that we can have? Because we're getting a lot of, you know, bad vibes from people when it comes to hosting concerts and having concerts. But what is your view? Because you were right there, you know, arranging it. You were right there on the ground. So I'd like to hear, what is your opinion about this?
So I do feel there's a place for concerts, especially in the message. And reason is, I mean, if you have the Gaithers coming in and you have different bands, you know, that you grew up listening to, you want to go and sit there and watch them and enjoy it, and you get blessed by that. And my thing in the message, you know, there's so many good musicians. And everyone has a talent that's not, I think Wilton alluded to this, you know, many good musicians can be playing in the world, earning some sort of income, but all they do is they play in church every Sunday, every Wednesday, whenever it is. And they don't get to actually play and record their music as such on a professional level. And so why do we have to go and sit and listen to the Gaithers where we have word, we have, you know, so much of food in a sense, you know, that we can glean off. And the music that our musicians and composers in the message write has a deeper level of meaning in a sense that the rest of the bride can enjoy. So I strongly feel that, you know, it's a good thing. I've watched the Skosanas, I've enjoyed their music, and it like reaches you on a deeper level in a sense, you know, because you understand what they're singing. There's things that some of our composers in the message write about that the people in the world can't relate to. They don't understand what we're talking about. But so I really think there's a place for it, and also just to showcase our musicians in a way, give them that platform where they can, you know, express themselves, and give each one a chance. And that's what I like about what you are doing. I mean, there's so many musicians we're getting to see now that we never knew existed.
Absolutely.
And through this platform, you know, you can start making contact with these different musicians, bringing them in and enjoying their talent. And, you know, I don't know what's in store for us next as Theophonic, but hopefully there's others out there, you know, that can do the same thing. So, yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely, 100%. I think, you know, a lot of musicians are wondering about this. And unfortunately, you know, some of our musicians, they do it for a living. They get paid for their music. And there isn't a platform in the message for that kind of thing. So I'm happy for your opinion that you've raised. And I'm sure that will also shed some light on those viewers out there that always had a question. So I'm just going to ask some of the other brothers that we've got on here this evening if they've got any questions for you, Brother Gersh. Let's start with Brother Michael. Do you have any questions for Brother Gershon?
Let me first say, Brother Gershom, I really enjoyed that. You know how much I appreciate your playing. It means a lot to me, especially also helping me kind of get started as well in church. Thank you for that. I just want to say I really enjoyed that. Also, I wanted to ask, what made you want to start playing the saxophone?
That's a good question. So growing up, my dad bought a CD, and he used to play it in the car, and I always looked at the cover, and there was this instrument, and then I learned that that's a saxophone. And it was an instrumental, and the guy's name was Bobby Hendricks. So I don't know if anyone of you know Bobby Hendricks.
Yeah,
but
we do.
So he played a lot of your hymns and songs that we grew up with. And I heard that sound on the sax, and I thought, you know what? I really would like to play this sort of instrument. And so it took a while, and probably 4 or 5 years later, when my dad could afford it, he bought me one, and that was my inspiration, you know.
Yeah. Oh wow. Good. So, Brother Q, do you have a question?
It's a beautiful song. I don't know the song. Sounds beautiful. So my question is, so you said you play another instrument. What other instrument is it that you play?
So I recorded the backtrack for that song that I played. So I play piano.
Okay.
I play drums as well. I fill in church. So on the piano or the drums or a bit of your guitars, you know, but just fooling around on that. And then I started off with the accordion. So there are one or two other ones. What I actually do is generally, if I find an instrument, I try to play it, and I'll try my best, learn how to do it, you know. What I decided is I enjoy traveling the world. So my new thing is, if I go to a specific country, I'll try and buy an instrument that's, you know, indigenous to that country.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, that's fine. And I guess being versatile, playing all the instruments, it can only be a plus, right? It opens up your possibilities. I guess when you're playing the saxophone, do you sometimes tap into stuff that you would have picked up from some indigenous instrument that you probably brought in, and because that's where the opportunity is, right? Because if someone is playing a harp, for example, there are some combination of notes that are easily comes out of the harp, and if he plays another instrument, he brings that across. That makes beautiful.
Yes. So here's the strange thing about me. I play the piano because that's what my basis was, the piano growing up. And every instrument I play, I'm thinking piano. So I'm basically playing the piano keys. I see the piano in the back of my mind, and I play that. Now, you would know, Q, that your C on the piano is different to that on your saxophone. So if you, I think on your piano, a C major is an A on your alto sax, which is correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
And so your sheet music works like that. So my mind, it confuses me because now, you know, I think piano. I know I'm playing C on the piano, but why am I playing A on my alto sax? So what I've done in my mind, I've converted the whole thing so that my alto sax is basically in line with the saxophone. So it's confusing.
No,
I do. And here's the other thing is I've got a soprano sax now, and that's on a different key. It's made in B flat, I think similar to your tenor sax.
Tenor, yes.
So now if I'm playing C on the piano, I have to transpose in my mind now to play on the soprano sax. I'm actually playing in the chord of F in order to get the chord of C.
Yeah. No,
you get me.
I hear. Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, it's one of those things. But okay, I'll talk about it later on. But my first instrument was a recorder, and
yes, actually, me too.
Yes, and when you play just like the tenor and the soprano on the saxophones, but the challenge with the recorder is that you switch your fingering as well.
Yeah.
And then you have to play the saxophone, and then that used to be difficult, but it stretched the possibilities of your fingers and so on. Yeah. So which is quite good. Yeah.
I know Delton spoke to someone. I think when he was speaking to the saxophonist a few weeks ago, and you brought up the thing about playing a recorder. Does it help or doesn't it? In my case, it did help in a way because I kind of got to know a little bit of fingering, how to blow, and it helps to a certain sense. But I don't know if you felt the same thing.
No, so for me, the recorder is the best first wind instrument one can play because it's 10 times or 5 times more difficult than a saxophone. Saxophone, you've got all the alternatives, right? All the patterns are automated for you. On the recorder, you actually make them. Okay, again, maybe it depends how far you go, because playing a recorder on C, it's fine. But when you have to play on C sharp, it's a whole cross finger, right? Exactly. But if you can press those fingers on C sharp on a recorder, then you're done, basically.
Yes.
You can play flute, you can play oboe, you can play. When I started playing the saxophone for the first time, I actually played at a concert. I got a saxophone in the morning, in the evening, I played at a concert on C. Because it was like, this thing is so easy, because I had so much. I went through the struggle on the recorder. So I think starting with the recorder is good. It's accessible as well, so it's cheap. Anyone can find it. That's my view.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of the younger kids coming up, if they want to play saxophone, I'll tell the parents, get them a recorder just to get a bit of fingering and see how it goes with that. And then after a little while, once they can play a song on that, then you could be ready to start playing your sax. It's much more difficult to blow a saxophone, but once you get the hang of it, it's there.
Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna say this, and if you've got children in your house, small kids, do not give them a recorder. They will drive you insane.
It's better than a violin.
No, good one. No, brothers. Okay, let us go over to Brother Q's recording. Brother Q. Oh my goodness. That was some amazing playing there, my brother. Whew.
Yeah,
Don't you
praise
just
God.
wanna don't you just wanna introduce yourself to us?
All right. My name is Mkondisi Skosana, and I'm from Soshanguve, which is a township north of Pretoria, about 20-25 k's from Pretoria, CBD. I fellowship in Mamelodi, at Mamelodi Tabernacle. I believe my brother was here a few days or hours, I'm not sure. So we fellowship together. So we play together in the same band, same choir, and yeah, that's me.
Wow, man, you've got such a beautiful sound on that saxophone of yours. You know, many times we've heard the other saxophonists play, and I think very few of them play without any music accompaniment. I think it is very dangerous to play without music accompaniment because you might just show yourself up. And I think you playing on your own, wow, I enjoyed, I could hear you, or only you. I wasn't distracted by anything else. I just heard you playing, and it was really, really amazing.
Thank you. We thank God.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, Brother Q, we had your brother on, you know, a little while ago, and he was telling us about, you know, your background and, you know, your musical family, you know, and how you participate in concerts and all of that. But don't you want to tell us a bit about your personal musical background and how you ended up on the saxophone?
Yeah. So as my brother probably told you, from my mother's side, my uncles are actually singers. They write music. They're not professional instrument players, but my uncle plays the guitar. He writes a lot of beautiful songs, and I think the influence came from there. Well, there was a piano at home, and my older brother was playing. So singing was just a thing that happens. We grew up. My mom sings 24/7, if that's practical. So I guess singing was actually, it was very strange that when I go next door to our house, they don't sing. You know, it was very odd. So singing was just something that was there, and I was fortunate to get some kind of scholarship of some sort. I don't know how to call it, but UNISA actually was sponsored my learning. So they had an outreach program. They came to Soshanguve, and there was a gentleman who was a pastor just a few blocks from our house, and he knew that there's always singers that side, and he wanted young people to attend, and I happened to be available at that time. So, and then I went for it. That's where I started playing the recorder. Yeah, and then we saw it was a, you know, music theory. We do the UNISA grades, and then much later on, I started playing the saxophone.
Oh, wow. So tell us a bit about the sax you're playing. You know, what is it? What type of sax is it?
It's a Yamaha. It's a semi-professional. It's very old. Apparently, it's about 30 or almost 40 years old.
Wow.
It was refurbished like 10 years ago. So when I got it, it was just redone. Well, you have to be closer to see. It was gold, and it was replated to silver, so it looks goldish silver.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it's a very unique jewel, you know.
Oh wow! Oh, that's beautiful, and it's a tenor sax. Am I right?
It's a tenor. Yes, correct. It's a tenor. Yes, it is.
Okay, so tell us, you know, for for those of us that don't know, if you're playing in an orchestra and you've got a soprano sax and you've got an alto sax and you've got a tenor sax, do you actually play those parts? Do you actually play the tenor? Does the alto actually play the alto? Does it actually work that way, or can you also then do the melody at times?
Okay, well, in an orchestra, the music is written, so you just follow. I guess the composer decides.
Who you decide?
Yeah, he decides. So I guess it's an issue of range. So of course the tenor can go low, and the alto can, it's more middle range, and the soprano can go higher. In an orchestra setting, the composer decides. But in a spontaneous playing, I guess it depends. So at church, there's another brother David Kuno, that we play together at church. We have a duet thing. I don't know whether we'll call it a small brass section of two saxophones, tenor and alto. So we swap around. So if maybe I was playing a lead, he would always try to play above me, but maybe then the song drops and it's a bit quiet. Just to be smooth, he can go below me, and I would see that maybe he might be in trouble later on. Then I would go below him, and then it's just
Oh, that's beautiful.
Spontaneous thing, yeah.
That is beautiful. Wow, what a relationship to have with another instrument. You have to read each other so well to know, hey, this brother's not going to reach that note. I need to step in,
Yes. Actually, it does, and it goes with time. I'm sure Brother Kesh and Brother is it Michael? Can allude to that, because the more you play together, the more you predict each other, if that's the right way.
So, Brother Q, do you play any other instruments?
Well, I had to kind of learn to play a guitar because music theory in general, the bass is a piano, right? The piano is the easiest thing. So when you're doing harmony, it's not theory only is not enough. So sometimes you want to try things out, and the guitar happens to be something that was a bit, I don't know, easier. I started playing on C, and then I figured the rest out. So I wouldn't say I play guitar, but I use the guitar to make things make sense. Yeah.
I'm going to use your answer now, and I'm going to get you into trouble with all the other musicians now. I want all the other musicians to hear that the piano is the easiest, then the second easiest is the guitar, you said. So I'm going to just leave it there. Let the other musicians attack you on this one. So, Brother Q, we heard such a beautiful testimony, from your brother telling us about the type of music you play. Always keeping the standard of the message high, no matter where you're performing. So I want to know from your instrument, specifically your instrument, has a tendency to sound, I mean, all of us, growing up, the first saxophone I heard was Kenny G, and that was it. Much later in my life, I realized that he wasn't actually that good. He just made popular music. And then we realized that, this is the saxophonist of the lifetime, playing. So I want to know from you, from a saxophone point of view, how do you handle it when people, say that, your music is sounding jazzy, or, it's sounding worldly, or, because it's creeping in. And our point of reference is only having heard Kenny G, something like that. We hear that kind of music. When we hear you play, we're making that connection, and we're saying, you're sounding worldly. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that one. There's so many opinions. And firstly, well, I'm fortunate in my space. We don't have that challenge.
You're lucky.
I'm lucky. I'm the lucky. I hear all the trouble other people go through. Jazz is just a genre.
Yes.
And country is another genre. And of course, there are some, and I'm not a fundi in this, but normal. I mean, there's one brother who once told me. So my grandfather plays the trumpet.
Absolutely,
And,
yes.
He played the trumpet. So the one brother once told me, said, your grandfather first when he came to our church to play, I was so shocked. I was like, what is this old man bringing the instrument of a jazz instrument into the church? But I think it's important, and I think it's part of the, I would call it as part of what the Holy Ghost does to know the audience. If I'm in a place where I already know that playing a bebop line is gonna make trouble, I don't play a bebop line. I just play the straight, and then the spirit flows, because at the end, our job as musicians in the ministry or in a church setting is to create the environment for the spirit to flow, for the word to come. And it finds the hearts of the believers there. So it's part of your spiritual maturity to understand that in this area, you need to play like this for the spirit to flow. in another area, you play all those jazz lines and the spirit comes down. So yeah. So I think I deal with it like that. I just assess and just comply.
Absolutely. I think that is such a very good answer. Myself, I grew up in one church, in Randfontein, being very conservative. And then I moved over, I lived in Kimberley for 4 years, and I played along with that band, which is not conservative. And certain things are allowed there, and certain things are not allowed back home. And I think what you've just said is exactly that. So if you know exactly what kind of lines are preferred or allowed in the band or orchestra you're playing, do not cross those boundaries and look for trouble.
Yeah. Stay out of trouble.
That's a very good one. Stay out of trouble. I'm going to ask the other gentleman with us here. Brother Gersh, do you have a question for Brother Q?
Bro Q, I thoroughly enjoy your sax playing. I mean, you on a level that we all aspire to be on. So I must say you're really gifted, and the way you play your instrument is one to be admired. I thoroughly enjoyed that song. It's really good. I just want to know, because you're a singer as well, when you sing, you see, you do a lot with your sax, and it's very colorful. In your voice, I've noticed that. Do the two link to each other, in some way? Do you think when you're singing, you're thinking about how you would do it on your sax, or vice versa?
Yeah, actually, it's true. So when I'm playing the saxophone, I'm actually singing in my head.
I thought as much.
So probably where technically possible, what I would sing is what I would play as well. So I think with time, the how do I say it? Okay, with time you don't think technically anymore. You just sing, just like I'm talking now. You just talk. So it's the singing that. Okay, then when the key becomes very awkward, then you start using a lot of mental capacity. But when things are smooth, basically I'm singing and I'm just translating that into playing. And when I'm singing in my head and translating it into playing, and when I'm singing, it's singing. It's even less. You don't even think about keys and all of that. You just have to watch if it's not too high or too low.
No, that's amazing. That's really amazing. And how long have you been playing the sax now?
So I started playing in it was grade 10. So I have to do the math. Year 2000. Year 2000. So
it's 20 years.
Yeah. So the math is there. Yeah. So it's well. Wait. I started playing the recorder then. Okay, and then 3 years later, I started picking up the saxophone. So minus 3 years. So yeah.
And do you practice often? Is it a daily practice session that you have, or a routine as such?
The desire is that. That's the desire, but practically no. So, I used to, right? So I was fortunate. I had a very strict teacher. So just the thought of me going for a lesson and I'm still at the same place as I was last week was just traumatic. So at that point, I had to practice quite often, okay? Maybe on average an hour a day. But now what keeps me going is really playing at church or preparing for an event. And I know I've got a solo. If what keeps me going is projects, it's stuff that's happening. And church keeps me going on a weekly basis. So if I don't practice, minimum I will practice. We've got a rehearsal on Saturday. I will practice on Saturday and I will play on Sunday. That's the worst case. And if I know there's a difficulty somewhere, that there's something I need to make sure it won't embarrass me, then I would work on it during the week. So my reading, because I don't read, I don't have an opportunity to read as much. So if I have a project where I need to read, then I go back to my norm. I have to get the scores and start working on it and just make sure I'm on top of it. So I don't practice as a routine. I practice because there's things that needs to happen.
Wow, I think that's quite a mouthful, Brother Q, and it's quite important for us to hear that, because everybody's got their own opinions on it. And I think you, as a performing musician, you have regular concerts.
Yeah.
It gives us a very good idea of the kind of work and effort that goes into that. Brother Michael, do you have any questions for Brother Q?
Yes, I first want to say that was like for Noel, it was awesome. I really enjoyed that. I just wanted to ask. Usually when we play, I feel like we pull a lot of things from the people that we hear. Like we'll pull a little run here, a little run there. I would just like to know, like, who do you think you pulled most of your playing from?
Hey. It's a very dangerous question. I need to put a disclaimer now. Okay. I'm choosing my words now. Okay, so in any case, Kekwalam, I like Kekwalam. I like his style of playing, so I check him a lot. And then technically to understand some of the runs, even Kekwalam would check someone like a Charlie Parker, who is a worldly player, who's there that Officially, I don't recommend anyone. But if you want to learn something technical, okay, those guys, the Coltrane's of this world, they will give you a proper background. And the nice thing with those guys is that there's books, you see, so you're not on your own. You're not just listening to him and trying to figure things out. There's a book, there's a nice book that I have here called the Bebop Bible. So in that book, they give you lines that you can play on particular chord changes. And so from that, you take that and then you put it in a Amazing Grace. Something beautiful comes out. So, so you know, Kekwalam and a lot of those older generation guys, I do check them a lot.
So then also, sorry about the Dalton. When you play, do you think more so along the lines of where the song is going? Like, okay, the song says this in this line at this point. So do you think in terms of chord changes? Does it go from C to G, or like how do you approach that?
Yeah, so not officially in my head. I not like a pianist would. A pianist would see that the changes are happening like that. So I think that's happening in my head, but not formally. I hear it more than I hear it and feel it more than I can. You can give me changes and I can play lines on those changes, but I cannot tell you what those changes are until I take a guitar and I work on these changes, unless they are, you know, basic changes. But I hear more and then play on the changes. I don't know if I'm answering it.
No, you are.
I don't know if I'm clear. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid point as well. And I like the story you're telling about where you're learning from. And I think just for our viewers out there, especially the younger viewers, they need to understand that when you listen to that kind of music, or you make reference to something like the Bebop Bible or something like that, and you take that information and you just go and insert it into any song on Sunday. You know, you learned it this week, so you try it out on Sunday. That's not how it works. I think we've all walked that path before, where we take something we've learned, and the next service, you want to put all that stuff you learned in, and you think it's amazing, and everybody comes and tells you afterwards, no.
Yeah, what's going on? They ask you, are you all right?
Yeah. So I like the setup. You know, I like the setup in the orchestra with Brother Gersh and Brother Michael and them. You know, they've got the violins there. So you've got first, second, and third violin. So you start off, when you start playing in the orchestra, you start off in third violin, and then you move to second, and then to first. And I somehow think that same kind of logic needs to come through in all instruments. You know, so if you learning an instrument, you cannot just start out in the front, you know, coloring in all the dots that you see, but you need to actually sit back and listen to the more experienced players playing in the front and hear them do things, and you need to hear them playing outside of church. So you hear this guy is this good, but in church he only plays that much. You know, and that lesson, I think, is the important one.
That's true. It's one thing I've okay, again, maybe it's not a good example for the message community, but there's an old man called Hugh Masikela.
Yeah.
So that old man, he actually can play serious standards, like proper deep whatever stuff academic. But when he plays, if you hear him play, he will play a few lines that would be so relevant at the right time, at the right place, just enough. So I guess that goes with experience. You know, the excitement of learning new lines, you want to call all of them, but experience will tell you that it must resonate to an ear.
Yeah, absolutely right. No, thank you so much, Brother Q. Thanks, Brother Gersh, Brother Michael. Thank you so much this evening. I think you really added some valuable information, not only from your instruments, but to music in general. So I don't know if you've got any last comments that you'd like to make. Brother Gersh, let's start with you.
I just want to say thank you, Dalton. I was extremely nervous to be on your platform, and you know, I've told that to you even when we chatted previously, I'm not one for interviews and those sort of things, but I really like what you're doing. I think it's a really good platform. And thanks for giving us this opportunity, hopefully it helps, all these discussions help those that are up and coming musicians. And if anything we do can assist them, that's the main thing, especially in your church environment. I think each one, we start off at a certain level and then we grow up and we mature. Each musician matures. And in the background, you have all the youngsters, all the kids watching you, and they want to be like you. And we need to acknowledge that as musicians, especially in the church environment, that the way we conduct ourselves, the way we play our instruments, we must realize that these youngsters are looking. And I've seen that where they keep watching you, and then they wanna play a saxophone. I mean, back in the day, not many people played sax in church. We come from very conservative churches, a lot of us. So you see these youngsters come up and they want to play their instruments, and we need to give them that time, inspire them and always look out for them. And I think this platform will do the same thing. I'm sure it's going to go around the world. I'm sure there's going to be youngsters watching and learning. So thanks to you. And it's been a pleasure to sit on this panel with great musicians as well. Q, you an inspiration to us, and
thank you.
You truly are an inspiration. I really look up to you and your playing, and may God continue to bless your talent and your singing ability and your whole family and what you guys do for us as a whole in the Message. It's really good to have that and to know guys like you. And Michael as well. You my right-hand man, I've got you there next to me, and really privileged to have you there. So all the best to you too, man, and thanks for everything. God bless you guys.
Now, thanks, Brother Mike. Do you have any parting words for us?
I just want to say thank you as well for the platform. I mean, I think I'm definitely one of the ones that are learning quite a bit from this. And thank you for having me. I mean, it's just really a blessing to be able to be a part of something like this. It means a lot. Thank you once again for the opportunity.
No, thank you, Brother Michael. It's our pleasure having you here. Brother Q, last words from you.
Yeah, so also thank you for having me. I think I was nervous as well because I'm not very a fluent talker. But I thought, no, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna do this. I had to convince myself quite a lot. So I'm glad it's getting to an end now, and I'm okay. Fine. So we appreciate the platform, and just generally for the pride. I think that the previous generation has given us music. Whilst we are waiting for rapture, I think it's important for us to also put music for the next generation, if there will be a next generation. And I think that we have to take it as a responsibility in our different corners to do this music. And this type of a platform, it was said earlier, that it made us know people that we never knew existed. I mean, it's only, I would say, 2 years back, or 2 or 3 years back, that I really, I don't know, Gersh, maybe I've met you. It's a year ago. So there's so much richness that now we need to leverage off. So I encourage people to write songs. At one point, we'll put those songs together and do something big in the Message. and writing those songs. Let's confuse the world. Let's write those songs about the seven seals. You know, let's do it. Let's do it. They'll ask questions and we'll give them answers. So I think we just need to be brave and just do it and have our South African version of songs of worship. You know, stuff like that. We really need to do it. And I think another thing I think our generation is a little bit more at ease compared to our parents. I mean, I don't know why I've met you only 1 year ago. I'm sure there's many reasons, and some of them are deliberate, probably, by our elders, maybe. I don't know. Maybe those are the other challenges in the message. But we should take this type of stuff and really drop those boundaries and do some good music. Let's do some good music. Yeah, that's my.
No, thanks so much, Brother Q. Some very good comments that you made there, and I've really got some good feedback from all the other churches and from different countries. People have been sending me some feedback on these sessions, and we're not trying to promote an individual here. We're trying to speak to message musicians. That's what we're trying to do, and hear their perspective, hear their point of view. Because the musicians are in the background, we're not up there in the foreground, singing and up there. So it's nice to hear that point of view and hear the testimonies. I think that's the most important part, is the testimonies associated with it. So thanks so much, guys, for this evening. Thanks so much for joining us and making this evening a success. We appreciate it, and God bless you. Wow, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. I was truly blessed, and I hope you were too. Thanks for all the positive comments below. We definitely read all of them, and we try to respond as much as we can. Please remember to keep sending us that positive feedback, any feedback, actually. We appreciate it all. And look out for our next episode, where we'll be interviewing some new musicians, getting some new point of views, some new ideas, some new tips on the instruments. And I trust it will be a blessing. Keep us in your prayers, and may God richly bless you. Good night.